Hey everyone, we are working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Yo, KYLE Long just said what every single person in Bears country has been thinking for the last 6 months, and I cannot take it anymore. Welcome to Favs. I am your host Fave, and today we are getting all the way into the three roster moves that have the entire Chicago Bears fan base buzzing, from the lakefront to the south side, from Wrigleyville all the way out to the suburbs. Because right now, in May of 2026, the Chicago Bears are standing at an absolute crossroads. The offense is electric. The foundation is real. Caleb Williams is healthy, focused, and ready to prove that 2025 was just the opening act. Ben Johnson has this franchise pointed in a direction it has not been pointed in since the days of Lovie Smith and Brian Urlacher. But there is one enormous, glaring, undeniable problem sitting in the middle of all this optimism, like a pothole right in the middle of Lakeshore Drive. The pass rush is broken, and Ryan Poles has a decision to make right now that will determine whether 2026 is a genuine championship run or another, well, we are getting closer season that nobody in Chicago wants to celebrate. We have three stories to get through today, and every single one of them matters. We are talking about Joey Bosa, 5 Pro Bowls, 77 career sacks, still playing elite football at 30 years old, and sitting in free agency like a gift that nobody has bothered to unwrap. We are talking about a brewing trade situation at center involving Garrett Bradbury and the Baltimore Ravens that could either generate real draft capital for Chicago or blow up in this front office's face if they move even one day too soon. And we are closing it out with the collection of veteran depth options still sitting in free agency right now. Names like Bud Dupree, Carl Lawson, Marcus Davenport, and Daquan Jones, who could collectively reshape what this defensive front looks like at a fraction of the cost of the flashier alternatives. This is a big one. Let's get into it. Let's start at the absolute top. Joey Bosa, 30 years old, 5 Pro Bowl selections, 77 career sacks, which ranks him 10th among all edge rushers since he entered this league as a first overall pick back in 2016. And right now, as of this week, that man does not have a football team. He is sitting in free agency with no contract, no destination announced, and the Chicago Bears are out here planning to roll into the 2026 season with a pass rush group that finished with the second worst pass rush win rate in the entire National Football League last season, 29%, the second worst in the whole league. That is not a depth issue. That is not a development issue. That is a structural emergency dressed up as an offseason talking point. Now let me address the narrative that Bosa is declining, because this is the thing that frustrates me the most about how this conversation gets framed. The man is not declining. He is not a charity case for a team that cannot do any better. According to multiple analysts who covered the Bills last season, Bosa appeared in 15 games in 2025, his most appearances since 2021, recorded 5 sacks and 47 total pressures, and led the entire National Football League with 5 forced fumbles. 5. Nobody in the whole sport stripped the football more than Joey Bosa in 2025. And his Pro Football Focus pass rush grade of 88.7 ranked 7th among all qualifying edge rushers in the league, 7th best on planet Earth. And according to the tracking data, his individual pressure rate last season was the best he had posted since 2022. The arrow is not pointing down. The arrow is flat at worst and trending upward if the health holds. And here is the part that should really stop every Bears fan in their tracks. According to CBS Sports analyst Tyler Sullivan, Chicago has kept the status quo at edge rusher this entire offseason. Not one player added through free agency. Not one edge rusher drafted in the 2026 NFL Draft. Coming off a 2025 season where the defense ranked in the bottom half of the entire league in both sacks and pressure rate. Tyler Sullivan wrote that plainly. No sugarcoating. And ESPN's Courtney Cronin backed it up just as directly, reporting that without a significant addition up front, the Bears have no choice but to search for improvement from within at that position group. No choice. Those are the words of 2 of the most credible, most sourced beat reporters covering this franchise. When both of them are saying the same thing, it is time to listen. The financial picture, meanwhile, is actually cleaner than most people realize. According to the salary cap tracking site Over the Cap, as of early May, Chicago is sitting on approximately $10.8 to $11.5 million. In available cap space, the number has fluctuated slightly, with some contract adjustments in recent weeks, but the range is real. And Bosa, who signed a 1-year, $12.6 million deal with the Bills last season, is now trending toward a significantly cheaper number in 2026, as the market has cooled and the teams with serious cap room have already spent it. What that means is that Chicago is potentially positioned to sign a 5-time Pro Bowler who graded out as the 7th best pass rusher in football, for a discount. For a discount on a guy who led the NFL in forced fumbles. If Ryan Poles passes on that, I genuinely do not know what else needs to happen for him to make this call. Fave's personal opinion? Joey Bosa is the single best roster upgrade Chicago can make with a phone call. One phone call. And the tactical argument is just as strong as the financial one. Signing Bosa does not mean asking him to be the engine. That job belongs to Montez Sweat, who led the team with 10 sacks last season and whom Ben Johnson described publicly as a very complete player in both the run game and the pass game. Bosa would be the lethal complement. The second credible threat on the other side that forces offensive coordinators to stop rolling their protection exclusively towards Sweat. Because right now, every coordinator in the NFC North wakes up on game week against Chicago, and games planned specifically for Montez Sweat on one edge and nobody in particular on the other. The moment Bosa lines up on that opposite side, that calculation changes completely. Sweat gets one-on-ones, and Montez Sweat winning one-on-ones is a nightmare for every quarterback on the schedule. Now, to be fair, because intellectual honesty is what separates this channel from everybody else, Ryan Poles did step to the podium and express genuine confidence in the group he already has. He spoke about Odeyingbo coming back from his torn Achilles and trending in the right direction. He mentioned Austin Booker as a player who made real strides after returning from his own injury late in 2025. He talked about Shamar Turner finally getting a full healthy training camp after a torn ACL wiped out essentially his entire rookie season. And Ben Johnson backed all of that up from the coaching chair, telling reporters the staff is going to be better this year, and that improvement starts with the people already in the building. Those are not empty words. Those are sincere assessments from people inside Hallis Hall every single day, who watch these players up close in a way that no analyst or media member can fully replicate. I am not dismissing the internal belief, but here is the honest truth that the optimism cannot paper over. Odeyingbo, Jarrett, and Turner all came into 2025 with sky-high expectations after significant financial investments in the previous offseason. And according to a detailed season review from the 247 Sports Bears Hub, all three proved to be major flops as a collective group. Odeyingbo started somewhat promising and then regressed dramatically before tearing his Achilles. Jarrett, who was already showing regression signs before arriving in Chicago, graded out as one of the worst run defenders on the team. Turner played 74 defensive snaps across 5 appearances, recorded 0 pressures, 0 hurries, and 0 sacks before his season ended. The defensive line as a group finished among the worst in the NFL, and the primary individuals responsible for that group's failure are the same people Poles is now counting on to be better. That is the honest picture. Internal optimism is a real thing. Internal improvement is also a real thing. But it cannot be the entire plan when you are protecting a franchise quarterback's window, and your pass rush win rate was second to last in the whole league. Let's shift to story number 2, because this one has more layers than it first appears, and the stakes are genuinely high for the Bears' long-term roster construction. It starts with a retirement nobody saw coming. Drew Dalman, a Pro Bowl center who had signed a multi-year contract with Chicago and was considered the cornerstone of Ben Johnson's offensive interior, walked into Hallis Hall earlier this offseason and announced he was retiring from professional football. At 27 years old, prime of his career. Done. Just like that. Ben Johnson had called the center the quarterback of the offensive line, the hub of every communication, every protection call, every snap count adjustment in one of the most mentally demanding offensive systems in the sport. And overnight, that hub was gone. The Bears responded on 2 fronts simultaneously, which tells you how seriously they took the problem. Rather than overpay for Tyler Linderbaum on the open market, Linderbaum ultimately signed for a record-setting $27 million a year with the Las Vegas Raiders. Chicago sent a 2027 fifth-round pick to the New England Patriots for veteran starter Garrett Bradbury. Bradbury is 30 years old, was a top 20 overall pick coming out of college, and has started every single game he has appeared in over 7 professional seasons. 105 starts without a single absence. Durable, experienced, and capable of absorbing the mental demands of Johnson's system from day one. And then, in a move that caught most of the league off guard given that they had already acquired Bradbury, the Bears used the 57th overall pick, second round, first center off the entire board, on Iowa's Logan Jones. Now here is where the story takes a turn that changes everything. According to reporting from The Athletic's Mike Sando, Ravens general manager Eric DeCosta revealed publicly after the draft that Jones was one of 2 centers his front office had specifically targeted on day 2, and that he believed there was a, quote, pretty darn good chance either Jones or Florida's Jake Slaughter would still be available when Baltimore was on the clock at number 80. Neither was. Chicago took Jones at 57. The Chargers took Slaughter 6 picks later at 63. Baltimore got neither. And heading into 2026, the Ravens, who lost their star center Tyler Linderbaum to Vegas in free agency, are now planning to start at that position, a player who has 13 career snaps and 0 starts in 2 professional seasons. 13 snaps, snapping the football to Lamar Jackson. In the AFC North, let that reality sit for a moment. An anonymous NFL executive spoke to The Athletic and said plainly that Bradbury would be a logical trade target for Baltimore if Chicago likes what they see from Logan Jones. And the same executive made what I think is the single smartest point of this entire conversation. If he was Chicago, he would not trade Bradbury until he knows what he has with Jones and knows the rookie is genuinely the guy. Those are critical words, and they match exactly what the Bears should be doing right now. Fave's personal opinion on the Bradbury situation? Do not touch it until after mandatory minicamp at the earliest. Here is why. The Bears renegotiated Bradbury's contract recently to guarantee $1 million in previously unprotected incentives, bringing his guaranteed money up to $3.7 million for 2026. That is a quiet but meaningful move. What it tells you is that Poles is managing this asset intelligently. By restructuring that money, Chicago makes the eventual trade cleaner for any acquiring team. Baltimore takes on a lower guaranteed number in the deal, which greases the transaction and potentially improves what the Bears can demand in return. It is positioning work. Front office preparation. The kind of thing that good general managers do before the trade market heats up rather than scrambling to catch up when it does. There is also a personal connection worth noting. Bradbury played his college ball at NC State under the coaching of Dwayne Ledford, who is now the offensive line coach for the Baltimore Ravens. Ledford knows Bradbury. He coached him. He understands his strengths, his limitations, and how he functions in a scheme. That relationship creates a built-in trust between the acquiring team and the player being acquired that does not exist in most trades. When Baltimore calls, and they will call, that conversation starts from a warmer baseline than usual. But the timing has to be right. If Logan Jones walks into Hallis Hall this summer and immediately shows he can command the snap count, handle the protection calls, and anchor the interior of an NFL offensive line in year 1 of his career, then Bradbury becomes an asset with significant leverage behind it. Baltimore needs him more than Chicago needs to move him. That leverage grows every week Jones looks like a starter. A 4th-round pick minimum should be the floor. Patience is the strategy. And Ryan Poles, to his credit, has shown throughout his tenure in Chicago that he understands patience better than most. All right, let's close it out with the third piece of this story, because this is where smart roster building separates the good front offices from the great ones. With the draft done and the bulk of the cap committed, Poles is going to have to look at what is left in the veteran free agent market. Older guys, injury risk guys, guys whose best football is behind them, but who still have real contributory value at the right price in the right role. None of these names are marquee signings. None of them are going to move the needle in terms of headlines. But put the right combination together, and you raise the floor of competition at every practice, push the younger players to develop faster, and ensure that when injuries hit, and injuries always hit in a 17-game season, the entire pass rush does not collapse to the bottom of the league standings again. Start with Bud Dupree, 33 years old, 2 sacks in 2025. That sounds modest until you contextualize it against Chicago's internal landscape. According to the season review data, 2 sacks from a veteran signing on a minimum contract would have placed Dupree 3rd on the Bears' entire edge rusher depth chart behind only Montez Sweat and Javon Dexter. 3rd on the depth chart, on the whole team, from a league minimum veteran. That says less about Dupree and more about how thin this position group was from top to bottom. He also provides experienced special teams contributions, mentorship for the younger pass rushers, and baseline production on a deal that costs essentially nothing. That is not a glamorous signing, but it is a useful one. Carl Lawson is a higher ceiling, higher risk proposition. At his peak with the New York Jets, Lawson was putting up 7 sacks as an interior disruptor and playing some of the most technically precise pass rush football in the AFC. With Dallas in 2024, he posted 5 sacks on a veteran minimum deal, showing he could still win individual matchups when his body cooperated. Last season with Baltimore, he played exactly 1 game. 1. The injury history is real, and it is concerning. But here is the bet. If Poles signs Lawson for the minimum, and he stays healthy for 12 games, That could be 4 or 5 sacks from a player who costs close to nothing in cap terms. If he cannot stay on the field and gets released in Week 4, the damage to the salary cap is essentially zero. That is a calculated risk worth taking every single time it presents itself. Low cost, genuine upside, no structural damage if it does not work. Marcus Davenport has accumulated 25 career sacks while fighting through one of the most frustrating injury histories of any pass rusher in recent memory. Multiple analysts project him at around $1.9 million for 2026 based on current market conditions, a number that fits comfortably inside whatever Chicago has remaining after the draft class is signed. If Davenport gives you 4 or 5 sacks in a full healthy season, that is potentially the best value signing in the entire league. And then there is Daquan Jones, 34 years old and still earning legitimate respect from Pro Football Focus for his run defense work. According to multiple analytical grades, his run defense performance out of Buffalo last season graded out ahead of both Javon Kinlaw and Grady Jarrett. At 34 years old, Jarrett, by contrast, cost the Bears over $12 million against the cap this season and graded out as one of the worst run defenders on the team in 2025. The contrast there is genuinely remarkable. And let me be crystal clear before anyone misreads the argument. Nobody here is claiming that Bud Dupree or Carl Lawson is going to transform the Chicago Bears into a championship-caliber defense on his own. Nobody is saying Marcus Davenport at 31 with an injury history is a top 10 pass rusher. The point is not any individual name in isolation. The point is the combination, the cocktail. You bring in Joey Bosa as the genuine second pass rush threat opposite Sweat that forces coordinators to account for 2 real weapons simultaneously. You bring in 1 or 2 affordable veterans to deepen the competitive pool, push the young players harder in practice every day, and cover the inevitable injuries that come with a full regular season. You watch Logan Jones prove himself before touching Bradbury. You manage the Bradbury trade with patience and demand the right return. And you enter September with a defensive front that is genuinely credible on all 4 downs, rather than a group that opposing coordinators dismiss in their game planning. The 2026 Chicago Bears have everything in place to make real noise in the NFC. The offense is built around Caleb Williams with an offensive mind in Ben Johnson, who was the most coveted coordinator in football before getting the head coaching job. The secondary has been upgraded. The culture inside that building is healthy, competitive, and pointed in the right direction for the first time in a very long time. But the pass rush is the bottleneck. It was the bottleneck in 2025. It remains the bottleneck right now, and the resources exist to fix it. Not completely, not overnight, but enough. Enough to give Montez Sweat legitimate help. Enough to give Caleb Williams a fighting chance when he drops back against Aaron Rodgers or Dak Prescott or whoever is standing in their way in January. Ryan Poles has built something worth believing in on the north side of Chicago. The process has been real. The moves have made sense. The roster is in the best shape it has been in years. Now it is time to make the move that takes it from good to great. Joey Bosa is still out there. The phone works. Make the call. Bear down. That is not just a chant. That is a standard. And this roster, this coaching staff, and this city deserve to see it lived up to in 2026. That is the show today, Favs family. If you made it all the way to the end, you already know what time it is. Smash that like button right now because it genuinely helps this channel reach more Bears fans who need to be part of this conversation. Then drop it in the comments section. Do you spend almost everything Chicago has left in cap space on Joey Bosa? Or do you trust the internal group and roll with the young guys? I want every take. Hot, cold, absolutely unhinged. I do not care. All takes welcome down there. And if you are not subscribed yet, please fix that right now, turn on the notification bell, and never miss a video. We are here every single day covering the Bears and the NFL, the way they deserve to be covered. No filter, no agenda, just the facts and the fire. I'm Fave. This is Favs. Bear down, Chicago. See you in the next one.